Stephen.
Andrew.
Do you fancy spending a quiet night on Cloud 9?
It's a bit different, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit different, isn't it? We're coming to you from the distant past. Recording this episode on Sunday the 23rd of February, having seen Stage Fright last night. Yesterday afternoon, in fact. That would be a lie. The matinee. At the Wyndhams in London. And so we wanted to get our thoughts out as soon as we possibly could so that we don't forget things. But yeah, we'll see how we go.
I'm glad we're not doing a live reaction to this one. And that we've just literally come out and sat down with some podcasting equipment and trying to get something out straight away. We've had a bit of time to think. And also although I don't like to do it hugely, but have a look at some takes that other people had immediately afterwards, because we only saw it once, obviously. Most people will only see this once, and so this podcast is a very different prospect to what we usually have, with the benefit of being able to go back on bits, pause bits, watch again, all those wonderful things.
Yes, exactly. And I want to shout out to Winter Soul Witch at the top of this episode, because they have put together the most comprehensive, and I have no idea how they've done it, unless they've gone to see it loads of times, but it appears that they've seen it once and they've remembered everything that happened.
Or filmed it. Winter Soul Witch could be a copyright thief. That might be what's happened here.
Oh, no, I don't want to be accusing Winter Soul Witch of anything like that. I want to say thank you so much to Winter Soul Witch. We can use that. I think especially for the second part, I found it very helpful. Just as maybe some scaffolding that we can use to
jump off.
No, toss yourself off the scaffolding. No. But let's start with our reactions to it. Was it any good?
I think you posted a Blue Sky post afterwards that just said nailed it, and I think they did. But halfway through, I wasn't sure they had. But by the time the end came along, I was pretty convinced they had.
Yeah. Yes, I had a very similar feeling at halftime. Having sat through the best part of Bernie Clifton's dressing room, which is an episode I know very, very well, I was thinking, are we just going to be seeing episodes acted out? And if I, really thought about it, it was like, of course we're not. Of course, we know Reese and Steve, and that is not what they're going to be doing. And it's not what they did. And so that, for me, that second half, it got to the end, I was just grinning, and I was like, that, and maybe a little tear trickling down my cheek. But I was like, that was so satisfying, and they absolutely nailed that, in my view.
I've been thinking, the name Stage/Fright almost kind of sums up the structure of it. The first half of it is just stage versions of the TV program, and then the second half is the horror. There's a little bit of that horror interspersed in the first bit, mainly in the form of just jump scares at every
just jump scares. I mean, the very first thing that happens is an enormous jump scare.
And then a blood-curdling scream. But yeah, I think we discussed afterwards and wondered whether that was kind of the point of that first half, was to lull you into a certain expectation for what was going to come in the second half, only to throw you straight into Night at the Asylum.
Yeah.
Which was just brilliant.
Yeah.
The whole of that. And I mean, I've always thought, whenever all the time of watching this and talking about it, and I think we've said a few times that this always felt like a program that could be on the stage, and these episodes would work well on the stage because of like their self-contained nature in one room. There was it would make sense to see them on a stage, and we did. We saw Bernie Clifton on stage with a couple of slight adaptations with lines and things, and slightly different versions of Steve playing with the coats.
Yeah, it was a bit more of an extensive.
But that was
getting off with the hat. Yeah,
But I thought that was. It was all really nice to see them doing that on stage together because it is a different experience. But I wouldn't have wanted that to have remained the whole thing.
No.
And here we are wheeling out Tom and Jerry for part 2.
Yeah. It was an interesting thought because there were people were loving it. People were laughing as if it was the first time they'd ever seen it. And it's probably true for a number of people there who maybe had been dragged along by partners or have maybe just seen a few episodes and thought, I'll take a gamble on that. I've enjoyed what I've seen of Inside Number 9. There was a lot of fresh reactions in that sense. And maybe people who knew them well, knew the episode well as well, were just enjoying seeing it done live.
I think also you need to remember that most people who really do like the program probably haven't watched it through as many times as we have.
No, that is probably true.
A healthier level of enjoyment of this program would probably have been to have seen that for the first time a few years ago, watched it again at some point, and then that was the first time they'd seen it in quite some time. Not like these guys who sit here dissecting episodes.
Fair point.
So we might have a slightly different feel of the scripts and things by this point.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. I think the audience is a really interesting, because it's a huge part of the play itself, I think, and the awareness that they would have had of the interaction that they would have with the audience and the responses to some of the stuff that they were doing. And I guess that is really where it starts to some degree with that theatre piece. So it's the missing episode. You bought the program, didn't you? And
the big brochure thing that came with the little script book for the series 5 episode that was shelved and became then the Stakeout, I think.
Yeah.
5, does that sound right? So that's like an extended version of what we saw acted out as like that 10-minute scene, 10, 15 minutes. Although having said that, 10, 15 minutes would have been half of what actually went on screen if that had played out, and it's what they ended up putting out.
Yeah.
But they ran into problems with how much it was going to cost them to hire a theatre and stuff and all those kind of things. So it disappeared and they put it in a drawer and then thought that would be a good way to start this.
Yeah, and it had the sort of double impact of being a bit of a put your mobile phones away, don't get your laptop out.
Or just slide your phone down the back of the person in front of you.
Yes, I did have quite a challenging time to some degree with someone sat behind me who kept dropping their phone down between my back and the chair. So I had to keep handing it back over my shoulder. Which was the first time it happened was almost immediately after Reese says, was it Reese who said, "Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind you, you're in a theatre.
Yes.
No coughing, no eating, and no mobile phones." It's like almost immediately, poof, there's a phone. Yeah.
It was just a natural reaction to being told no phones. Just drop.
Oh, I better drop it. Yeah. And then I'll pick it up, and then I'll drop it again, and pick it up and drop it again. Yeah. A little bit irritating. I mean, the theatre itself is pretty tight. The seats, you didn't have a lot of wiggle room.
No.
I was glad I didn't take a bag with me. That was another thing. I had a bag smashed over the back of my head. by the same person several times.
Welcome to the theatre. No, theatres on the West End, I don't think they're from an older time, and there's certain romance about them and things. I think people were smaller, yeah. And everything's very tight, cramped up, very narrow corridors and things, and there's a little bit of a maze in there as well. But
only one toilet.
And only one toilet. You may think there's more than one, but it just loops around.
I was directed to the toilet that I'd already left because it was too busy at the interval. And someone was like, go that way, there's a gentleman's through there. I was like, okay, thank you. Oh, I've been here before. And the queue is still really, really long.
And everyone's just saying sardines as they cram into his tiny toilet space.
Of course they are.
We've really set the scene here, haven't we?
Yeah.
Complaining about historical theatre buildings in the centre of London. God, you'd think they'd modernise them a bit, wouldn't you?
And one of the things,
the chairs.
one of the things about that theatre is it's also haunted.
Is it really haunted?
Well,
is that an actual thing about this one? It's one thing I haven't looked up actually.
Yeah, I haven't
whether
looked
Wyndham Theatre is, because
was it chosen for that reason? In the same way as obviously we have parallels with Deadline and the Granada Studios, having a legend of a haunting.
Yes,
in reality,
there's no big mention of it on the Wikipedia. So I'm going to say it's just a narrative device. But yeah, it did have that kind of Deadline feel of, let's set this up, let's set the scene. You're in somewhere that is haunted.
Yeah,
I did quite like the ghost light thing, although I thought it was going to play more of a role than it did.
Yeah, I kind of like the fact it didn't. It was just sort of there, and sometimes it was on, and sometimes it was off, and because even the ambiguity of does it appease the ghosts or does it scare them off? No, I don't know.
It's just a thing that we do.
We just put it on. Yeah, it's quite a nice. Yeah, well, obviously it did sort of come back through the show. It wasn't. It was like a Chekhov's light that had no real payoff, and I quite liked that.
There was the slight relaxing of the Chekhov's laws in the fact that the gun was both spotted and fired in Act 1.
Yeah, that was nice.
It's here, and yeah, we're using it.
Yeah.
Is that a Chekhov? No, that's just an object that gets gun. Used.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, the theatre piece, the first person on stage was someone who looked a lot like Reese, but I remember at the time thinking, I wonder, is that Reese?
There's a bit of uncanny thing going on there.
Yes, absolutely.
Something doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah. And then some other characters arrived. A woman with her father and sat at the front.
Old sleepy. Food allergies.
Sleepy. Allergic to nuts.
Yes.
And then Steve arrives with his mobile phone and laptop.
The overlay thing was quite clever with the text conversation.
Yeah.
I was quite impressed with that effect. It's like there must be a screen there. Like a very, very light screen that you can't even see that's having stuff projected onto it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, kind of reminiscent of the text messages in A Quiet Night In.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't laugh out loud at those text messages, but yeah, I thought it was kind of, I don't know, it was one of those where everyone laughing around me made me think, I'm not sure I'm quite getting this. Like it's slightly, I don't want to say contrived, but it did feel a little bit.
It's obvious humour, isn't it? It's silly. It's fairly
silly.
farcical silliness.
Yeah.
And I think that was a lot throughout the whole thing was there was a certain element of pantomime running through all of it, at all stages, because there was a lot of farce, and the whole thing was pretty silly. And there was a line at one point where Reese's character said that person's good, they keep them just on the right side of pantomime.
Yeah.
And I'd say that probably summed up the whole thing.
Yeah.
When you sort of look at the bit with the recurring celebrity guest spot each night, and that whole script thing with the kidnapping, all very silly. All of the wordplay and stuff is extremely silly, but that fits in with Len, I guess.
Yeah,
you're kind of building the whole thing around the beginning of the whole Bernie Clifton thing, especially that first act where that sketch bit all comes off the back of cheese and crackers. Turns out cheese and crackers are the Quiet Night in robbers.
Yeah.
I like that. That was good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, so Len had a script idea for another show that was essentially a Quiet Night in / kidnap /
It was like a prequel, wasn't it? Because it was before.
Yeah, before they
robbery.
stole the artwork. Yeah, or tried to. Because obviously they die at the end of a Quiet Night In, so it couldn't have been
a sequel
unless they were ghosts.
Unless, yeah. I saw online, and you said that you did the same thing because you've seen Deadline so many times. Whenever there's stuff going on with the Quiet Night In robbers, your brain kind of goes into the glitching and ghosts bit straight away. So when they was lurking around at the back of the stage in the window. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just expecting some kind of jump scare. Some sort of thing is going to glitch. Yeah. And the staging was great with that. Some of those effects. Just, him being behind the window.
Yeah.
Just very good. Yeah, so they before Bernie Clifton, they like Stephen Rees kind of come out as themselves in front of the curtain and introduce it, and
that took me back to those days of watching the Mighty Boosh.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Mighty Boosh. Yeah,
that little intro in front of the red curtain.
Yeah, so they come and set it up. They tell us about Bloody Bell, who is somebody that was accidentally killed on stage. And it's her ghost that haunts the Wyndham Theatre. And bad things happen to people who say her name 3 times. Or she appears to people who say her name 3 times. Which they did.
Did they only say it twice, though?
I mean, they said it like 3 times.
Oh, did they?
Right then. So that was almost a slight red herring setup, I feel.
Should we hear now?
Yeah.
Is she?
And she was sort of there or thereabouts.
I mean, she was right from the off, yeah.
So.
So the first thing we got was the lights went down, and then there was just a bang and a loud blood-curdling scream, wasn't it? That was the intro to the whole show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she was there.
She was there.
Yeah, and then is that where we then get the violinists doing the, I guess, an extended introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Which was quite cool. So they were in the boxes on the sides, one on each side, which must be quite challenging to. I could see like there was a bit of panic,
frantically trying to spot
faces.
each other.
Yeah, trying to be in time with each other because
there's no conductor down there anywhere there, is there?
And not an easy piece to play, I don't think. But yeah, that was great. Kind of little bit of goosebumps on the back of the neck there. Yeah, and then were we into Bernie Clifton?
Yes.
Straight away.
Straight into Bernie Clifton. And yeah, it played almost word for word, I think, for the most part. Not the full episode, sort of. I guess it was just sort of skipping between bits within it. Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed watching them pulling off some of those things from the episode.
Yeah.
Like the Bottles song was fun.
Thatcher out on the front of the wall.
It's not a dated reference at all. And yeah, watching Steve do the like the
mime,
the one man mime with the coat sleeve and stuff. Just really great.
Yeah, it was really good. And then he goes, because he goes out for a cigarette. Len does, doesn't he? And that's when Steve left for a costume change, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And
he mentioned
Tommy,
so that they would. There was more of an extended bit, I think, than in the episode where they're talking about how they could bring it back, and that kind of led into a conversation about him having a script.
Yes,
didn't it? And then he disappears off, and Tommy finds the scripts, doesn't he?
I think that's when he finds the script, and then we break from Bernie Clifton into this kidnapping.
A quiet kidnapping.
And we had Morgana Robinson.
She was very good.
Who was Carrie in Private View.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. So I imagine that the vast majority of people like us did not know that this guest segment was a thing, and probably assumed that Morgana Robinson is there most evenings.
Yeah, she's just in it.
It was only when we got home and we had a look and we found out that all these different people have been there each night for that exact same bit, and they just get to play around with different aspects of that celebrity's name and filmography.
Which kind of explained why there was an element of, you could almost see them laughing at times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so it was like, they're just having a great time. Like some of the things Reese was coming out with. And then Morgana was laughing. Like, couldn't hold things back.
And that's where it was kind of on that pantomime line. And I think what's quite amazing is obviously they're now getting quite deep into this run. Through January into February, we're about to go into March, which is their last month there. They still seem to be having fun with it,
I bet that element really helps keep it fresh. Every single performance has a different person doing that. And so it's probably going to feel. I don't know how they rehearse it with each of them. Like how much. Be really interested to know
whether they're just in the morning. Or whether they just send them across some stuff. Maybe we'll never find out, but
I'd love to know that. Yeah, and it was Mark Gatiss was the guest in the evening last night.
But everyone assumed he was going to be the last one.
Yeah, never assume anything with Inside Number 9. You'll always be wrong.
I think it's a shame that some people feel like there is a particular guest that they want to be there for, and they come out and they're almost disappointed that they weren't there for Mark Gatiss or they weren't there for, because even though you didn't know it was going to be a thing, the moment you walk out and find out that, oh, hang on a minute, it could have been someone else, that's a shame.
Yeah. Oh no, I was quite happy. I don't have those feelings.
No.
Yeah. And I'm really happy with how few spoilers. I mean, I didn't know anything about it really before we went. So yeah,
the only spoiler I got was going onto the Wyndham's website while we were on the train going there, and there was a picture of Tommy and Ben with the ventriloquist thing. I was like, oh, we're getting some Bernie Clifton. Oh yeah. Cheers, guys. Notes to Delphont Macintosh Productions. Don't put screenshots from shows on your website.
Yeah, especially, I think, shots of things that you would recognise. Because I've seen some sort of press shots of the asylum scenes, and it's like, that's fair enough, because you don't know what that means. You don't know what that is.
But not a still from a beloved episode.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's a fun kidnappy type of thing, and as you say, the play on, or the relentless mispronunciation of, it was Pippa Middlesex.
Middlesex, yeah.
Pepper fart or whatever. That was, that then gave rise to her coming out of the wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
To correct
going into a wardrobe first.
Going into a wardrobe after...
It was full of people.
Len went off to get some food from the kitchen and came back with some celery. And she had put herself in the wardrobe. Yeah, it was full of people first time she opened it, and then...
They'd all gone. There was just a shoe.
A lone shoe.
And that was the thing, was that the first half, there was a lot of sort of fan service and homage stuff. And in that bit alone, we had like Kidnap, Quiet Night In. They spoke about they went to the wrong house to do the kidnap because the 9 6 upside down things that was once removed. Sardines, shoe in a wardrobe. Yeah, all of this stuff was just...
The hair was on the stairs. Yeah.
Bang, 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 blinking, you'll miss it.
Plenty of stuff.
References.
Yeah. Yeah, so then that's when we get the gun, wasn't it? She runs, goes up the stairs, and then you get... Tommy as the burglar shoots her. This great dummy.
Which now we realise that dummy every night has to be dressed up slightly differently to reflect whoever's on stage.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless Ralph Little wore that dress as well, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they all just put the dress on. I don't know.
But all of this stuff was almost setting it up as a little bit of an anticlimax as a show. Because it was, you've seen Bernie Clifton. We've had a kind of rehashing of some other stuff. You've almost set up you haven't set up an expectation for part 2. You've almost set up a disappointment for part 2 anyway. I don't know whether everyone felt that way. And some people were just lapping up this stuff they were getting. But there was almost a false disappointment being played here of... You think this is what you're getting in part 2?
It's just a bit of a homage and celebration of the series. And yeah, we just get a bit more of that in part 2. Yeah, and... I suppose that because the end of part 1 is we go back to Bernie Clifton and Len's daughter appears, and you get that same bit. And I've felt it, and people have mentioned it, that it felt less warm than in the TV show. Mm-hmm. This interaction between Tommy and Len's daughter. And I was reflecting, I was trying to think, was that maybe deliberate, or is it just the nature of the theatre or the stage and it's just how it was? Or was this a kind of bit of a seeding of something weird and eerie going on with Reese at that stage? And I'd be interested to know if this happens every performance or whether it was just something on that performance where they almost talk over each other a little bit, or they wait, there's a pause, and they both jump in to say their next line at the same time. And it felt like a mistake. But as we know, there were other mistakes that weren't mistakes.
Yeah, the Rubik's Cube that was hastily corrected by Reese when he said it. Rubik's Cube, which then that was then mentioned again later on as a reason we should know. What I would be really interested to know is whether we missed other little bits where it wasn't Reese.
Yeah.
It might not be, but there might have just been little bits all the way through where like he wasn't full face on or anything, and there were just points when he went off stage, came back on, and those kind of things where they did just drop the other guy in just as a quick.
Yeah. I wonder whether that bit they did.
Very possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But then that does lead directly into the end of the part and the jump scare where I think, do the lights start flickering and he's like looking, he's calling for Len.
Yeah, the ghost light's going, isn't it?
Yeah. So she leaves. Again, Miranda Hennessy is who plays the daughter who was in To Have and to Hold.
Okay.
As Reese's girlfriend. Yeah. So she disappears and then Tommy's on his own and the light flickers.
And we don't get tears of laughter then, and that's the
We don't get
bit.
tears of laughter. No,
we just
not
get
at the end of the first half.
Boom!
Yeah. And then toilet time.
Yes. Toilet and expensive program time.
So as you say, at this stage, you're thinking, it's fun, it's nice.
I had wondered whether they would weave anything into like the interval and stuff around the theatre and things like that. Kind of glad they didn't. Because I'm saying I thought they might do something else. I'm saying I'm glad they didn't. All of this is in my own mind. But you know what I mean? Whether the whole thing would become a sort of a twisty experience over the course of the show. But no, it's just straightforward.
It's straightforward.
Out you go. Go get something to drink. Or not.
Yeah.
And then back to your seat. And then boom. We're back.
Another mobile phone has dropped down the side of the...
Although we don't know where it is now, and we will be being harassed over the course of the second half, asking if we can return the mobile phone that we don't have.
I did not feel the mobile phone drop in the second half, but kept feeling a hand reaching down my back, grabbing my arm, and then
trying to
every
find
so
it.
often the words, "Can I have my phone back?" came into my ear. I'm like, I don't have your phone.
You had a more horrific experience than some people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even part of it.
It's like 4D, yeah.
Maybe it was.
Being grabbed. Maybe everybody had.
Everyone
Yeah,
had
I'd
someone
love to hear
behind
from
them.
people. Did everyone have someone behind them grabbing them?
So yeah, we go into full horror gore mode. Reese's bread and butter as we go into Act 2.
Yeah.
With the night at the asylum.
Terror at the asylum.
Terror at the asylum.
Yeah. So this is where Winter Soul Witch is very, very helpful.
Because it's quick. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. Yes, so I'll just read some of what they've written on their Tumblr. Miranda Hennessy and Anna Francalini are a prospective patient, Suzette, and a nurse at Dr. Gudrun's asylum. Suzette is dressed in a flapperish style with bobbed hair and carries a large green hat box. She's wearing the large sparkly ring that the mime was wearing in Bernie Clifton's dressing room. Ah. How have you... This is unbelievable. That's incredible. The nurse has that vintage, creepy nun-style nurse uniform with a big white headdress and strangely pink skin all around her eyes and cheeks. The other helpful thing was that Winter Soul Witch was, I think, sat on the front row, so was able to see all sorts of details like that. The set has a barber's chair covered in a sheet, which twitched as if to suggest someone was already sitting in it. I missed that.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. There was a bloody saw on the wall.
A bloody saw?
with jars containing various fluids and lumps. Love is a Stranger reference?
Maybe.
I
love Reese's character
Reese
at this point.
enters here as the mad scientist. So, yeah, there's this really long pause when the two of them come in.
Oh, yeah.
She's waiting for the doctor to arrive. And this was a particularly It's like a fantastic moment in the audience where there was a guy fairly close to us who could not...
lost it, didn't he?
He just lost it. He could not contain himself during the pause.
And I think that kind of set the tone for him for the rest of the second half. I think he was just on this heightened state of everything is so funny.
Yeah. He just started laughing hysterically at the fact nothing was happening.
And that set me off.
Yeah, you were gone listening to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting moment. And then Reese enters as this mad scientist, who we assume at first is Dr. Gudrun. And he starts doing the Elements song.
Yeah.
Which again is a nice sort of pantomime-y, campy moment.
Wasn't aware of the Elements song before. When we came out, I said, that sounded a lot like Gilbert and Sullivan. Turns out, it is. It's just to that tune. Modern Major General. From HMS Pinafore, I think.
I'll take your word for it.
That's the limit of my Gilbert and Sullivan knowledge, to be honest. That did, and Winter Soul, which has pulled out my favourite line from that bit when he was demanding to eat her eyes. What's to be gained if they won't stay awake while I operate them? I ate them. I ate them up. He sees inside me. He sees everything inside me. Good. Yeah,
he is a slightly disturbing doctor, but then we realise, is he then taken away?
He's taken away, yes, because the warden comes and gets him, or the actual Dr. Gudrun, which is Steve, appears. And they take him away.
Yes. And he has a creepy vibe.
He does very much have a creepy vibe. In fact, worse than that, because especially when he starts talking about him and his wife.
Yeah.
He's horrific.
Her unfortunate demise. And there's this sort of focus on the hat box when there's a question of the fact that his wife's head was never found. And there's the picture on the wall as well where it's a painting of his wife, and the head falls off.
Yeah.
And blood starts spurting out. And
it turns out there's someone in that cupboard later on.
There is. Without a head.
Without a head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we then get some good on stage gore when Hugo's brought Reese's character, the fake doctor, who's actually Hugo, is brought back in to demonstrate his ability to operate on people by hypnotizing them.
And they don't feel any pain.
That slice on the face was horrible.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so he sort of uses a scalpel just across the forehead, which leaves a mark.
And then asks Hugo to remove his own leg with a bone saw.
Yes. Which, yes, very Mother's Ruin.
It was very Mother's Ruin.
Pop a pot on it. Except he doesn't pop a pot on it.
He doesn't, and he's just brought out of the trance suddenly.
Yeah.
And then just screams.
It's a great scream. Yeah. So then he disappears. Well, he's taken away, isn't he?
Yes.
So they say this. Gudrun then asks the nurse to fetch the bone saw and asks Hugo to amputate his own leg below the knee. We're then treated to the sight of Reese hacking off his own leg and removing it. I could see his real leg within the... This is the bad thing about sitting on the front row. I could see his real leg within the chair, but I imagine the illusion looked quite convincing for people further back.
It did up high in the grand circle I was convinced he was hacking off his own leg.
Yeah, I was convinced. I was absolutely certain that it was actually.
There was no way he wasn't hacking off his own leg.
Yeah. And then Suzette tries to leave, and evil Steve is unleashed. Yes.
He is.
So we get that classic Steve villain character.
Oh, that horrible line that they pulled out here. You ravaged her, well, as much as one can ever ravage a creature in such a catatonic state. As you also find out, my dear, after your own surgery has been completed. Horrific. Absolutely awful.
The ravage, that was, so there's a lot of Devil of Christmas vibes in this.
Yeah.
And I think throughout the whole second half, there's little elements of that, like the snuff film element as well.
Yes.
But yeah, that line, ravaging, I'm pretty sure there's a line like that in Devil of Christmas. Which I enjoy because it's one of my favourite episodes.
So it all turns out that he murdered his own wife after she caught him with an inmate, which was, I'm remembering, was it Susie's sister? I think it was Susie's sister that he was caught with. So then Suzette picked up some acid to try and ruin her own face for him. At which point he came out with a line something to do with, you don't look at the mantelpiece while you're poking the fireplace.
Yeah.
And that acid actually ended up on the nurse's face. And she was walking around with her eyeball hanging out for the next
it's so good
chunk of time. And it was just hanging around.
Yeah. And this is when we then get the first sort of the meta element of, okay, there's a play within a play here.
This is all a rehearsal for a play that's Reese is directing. Yeah.
So we see an usher appear, Gabby French from Love's Great Adventure. She's there with an usher's uniform and a few coffees. I love this bit where the nurse is sat in the back drinking this coffee and her eyes just like dangling into it. Yeah, and so it turns out everything we've just seen is a rehearsal for a stage play, a performance of Terror at the Asylum to be held at Wyndham's. Reese's character is Marcus, the director, who berates Gabby's character Abby from front of house for destroying all the tension that they've built up.
So there's this element here of where the leading woman in this, Suzette's actor, is supposed to be a pop star. Through all of this, there's kind of references to her not being a serious actor and her being a pop star, which was kind of throwing me off a little bit because I didn't recognise who she was. And so I didn't know whether this was a real life reference or not. When you then read the big program, where it's got like a fake program for this play in it, and all those characters are kind of have their own characters in there in the cast details. So Miranda Hennessy is billed as being in a pop group and actually being a pop star. I don't know whether any of this was a pop at any of the projects that are running in the West End who seem to have a recurring cast of celebrities in them. That 222 one. Yeah.
222, yeah. I was reading that it could be a direct reference to that. It's Steve that's most annoyed because at this stage, Marcus, played by Reese, is thinking, we need her because it's not about your CV, it's about how many followers you have on Instagram, and the only way we're going to get the auditorium filled is because of the allure of having someone like that. And Steve, whatever the name of his secondary character is.
Was it Vince?
Is it Vince? Yes, Steve character's Vince. Is that the same name as the ventriloquist dummy? Pretty sure he's Vincent. Say hello,
It
Vincent.
is.
Hello,
Yes, Vincent Vomit.
Yeah. Yeah, so he is not happy having someone who can't act on the same stage as himself.
Well, because he's very much like Alison Steadman's character in Seance Time, where he's just reeling off the things he's been in, and none of them are particularly big deal. They are to him, but his career isn't exactly full of things to brag about. He's a bit like that.
Yeah, full of himself.
Very seriously.
Yeah. Sherry and Abby have a chat. Sherry has an upcoming audition for Series 2 of the Divine Comedy thing on Amazon.
Yeah, that's back.
Yeah. And if she gets it, she'll have some good scenes with Tim Key, who, as we know from Plodding On, got the role.
We then start to kind of build up a bit of an atmosphere here between the two of them. It feels like there's a bit of resentment there as well from Abby, because she wants to go into acting. She's doing the thing of coming up through doing her time working front of house and in the theatre, just to kind of build up towards maybe getting some sort of bit part here and there. Yeah. Whereas this person, so it's not only Vince that this is upsetting, we're also getting a kind of a hint that Abby is not entirely thrilled about this situation either.
Yeah, especially when Sherry is saying things like, I get loads and loads of auditions and even loads of roles. I'm not even an actress. And this is after Abby has said she doesn't get many auditions for films or TV or the theatre.
No. So yeah, they then they go into doing the next. There was some other bits and pieces, but the next big shift is to going into Marcus's kind of next level of theatre, is to kind of add this element of live filming going on. And there's a really well done bit here with the cameras where they're kind of all hamming it up as they play through the scene where she's going to get her head drilled through by the evil doctor. And they're all just coming at the camera and just kind of ranting and raving at it. And you can't tell whether people are just trying to draw focus away from the poor special effects and stuff that's going on behind them. But it all looked really good. It looked like an old black and white B horror movie that you were watching on stage. And I think this is something that they're really good at, is playing with cameras. And from this point on, that becomes a really big deal. Yeah. Playing around with cameras and using cameras to kind of build up tension and with those perspectives and things like that, like they did in Deadline.
It's Deadline, yeah. And it's that sense of, what am I going to see? It's the Paranormal Activity fear. What am I going to see on this screen that I don't want to see? And Last Gasp as well. That's the kind of, the use of the video camera that doesn't really lead anywhere. But
it feels like Silence of the Lambs. He's running around with the night vision.
Yeah.
And Buffalo Bill's down there somewhere. Like that.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
It is. And because she's so... Yeah, we've kind of skipped a little bit there, haven't we? Because they use the camera initially for that bit.
Yeah, and they rehearse the scene with the drilling into her brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it just it's the chaos moment, isn't it? Where Reese stops it and...
They think she's dead.
Well,
we think she might be dead.
They're... Originally, it's like, this is just stupid. This has got silly because everybody's like running around screaming and it's like, what is going on here? And then the camera has just paused on Sherry and she looks dead. And you're obviously thinking, oh, she's actually died. But she hasn't. She's just pretending. She's practicing her dead face.
What went on? I was just thinking about the bit with Steve talking about Daniel Day-Lewis and walking off stage because he thought he saw his father on the stage.
Yeah.
And he gives Reese a big long hug. Yeah. Is this him saying that he's seen Reese on the stage?
I think this is the moment, like, he's seeing, what's his name?
Toby. Fucking Toby.
Toby. Devil of Christmas. So he's obviously seeing Toby, or Toby's playing this role, but Steve has seen Reese.
Yeah.
So he hugs him and then wanders off with this. It's a great change of tone, isn't it? When he goes into that.
It's the way he drops the Vince voice.
Yeah.
And he's back as Steve, telling us about Daniel Day-Lewis walking off stage because he saw his dead father and he was just overcome and he walked away. And that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, what was that?
Yeah. I love that.
So we then get more information about the legend of Bloody Bell, this time because Abby's explaining it to the cast, about the Wyndham and about Bloody Bell and where she came from. And it was during the performance of this play, Terror at the Asylum, when they did drill through the actual actress's head.
Yeah. And she died.
She died. And the theatre's now haunted. And if someone sees the ghost, they become possessed and someone in the company dies. Sherry's appalled that no one warned her about this and storms off.
Yeah. Oh, is this where we see the audience?
Yes.
At this point, Abby is standing in the stalls, leaning on the stage with the camera pointed at her. The scene is bathed in red, and some of the faces of people in the front row can be seen.
That terrifying moment of being on screen in the theatre and going, I'm not supposed to be a part of this.
Yeah.
What?
And everyone was waving.
Yeah. Hi.
When people are on screen, they just can't help themselves. Oh, come on. Hello.
My mum. Mum, can you see me? No, this is just for you.
Was it the full audience capture here where then the audience disappears?
No, that was at
later?
the end. Yeah. That was towards the end. That was the thing I've been waiting for.
Sorry.
No, the thing that I was waiting for the end of Inside Number 9 was a
theatre of course,
with everyone gone. So we then get a scene change where Sherry's practicing her audition lines for the Ninth Circle thing.
This is great. Virgil.
She's so good, Miranda Hennessy, and this is an example of bad acting. Being really good at doing bad acting is, you said it before, is such a skill.
Yeah, she delivers each line and then is just like looking around and waiting,
proud of herself.
Yeah.
Especially once she's corrected to stop pronouncing it as Virgil. I think it's Virgil.
Thank you so much. I don't know what I'd do without you.
And at this point, so they're using and I think it was really important that we had the camera on her face so we could see all this, and the fact that she's playing up to a camera. And so we've got the big screen at the back of the stage, and then we see something happen over her shoulder, and something's kind of dragged away in the background, and that freaks Abby out. And Abby goes to see what she can see. And I was kind of thinking at this point, has she seen Bloody Bell out back and she's now possessed? Or some sort of possessions started at that point because she went out, saw her, and then, we've been told that if whoever sees her is now possessed.
Oh, is that what they say?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like the reminiscent of what they say about Reese's character in the theatre, who something possessed him, and he killed 3 people.
Yeah.
because his wife had died.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a parallel to that as well, isn't it? Yeah.
So, yeah, this is when then the camera work picks up. And so she's using the camera as a torch because of the big floodlight on it, but it's also filming as well. And so she wanders off stage, and we see her going downstairs and into sort of all of the underneath, mazy bit underneath the stage. And this felt like Deadline.
Yeah, very much like Deadline, yeah.
When Reese was running around with the GoPro on. And you're just seeing things. Or you're not seeing that much, expecting to see a lot more than we actually see. We do get a shot of Belle at one point. The guy just down from us was loving it at this point.
Yeah.
he was pissing himself while we were all sat there wondering what was going to appear next. Because it was scary.
There was the hand on the wall.
Yes. Oh, she went down the stairs.
Yeah. And you kind of go around the corner and there's nothing there.
There isn't Steve shouting, "Jump scare!"
Jump scare. There was who was it that came out of the wings onto the stage with the microphone? Or was that, maybe that was Abby? Was that Abby?
Which point? Which bit? Steve, Reese didn't he?
Was it Reese?
Reese did, because he was then talking to... So the whole point of this was to scare the crap out of Sherry to get her to walk out, wasn't it?
Yeah. But then also to then be telling the story of it being a haunted place so that there was a good story for people, because people like being scared, so that will attract an audience.
So you get the hat
box, which opens not with a head in it, but the hair, and then the head drops from
out
the ceiling,
the rafters. I didn't realize it was a head to start with. It was just a big object that fell out of the sky. Was this where we could see Belle? Oh no. Could we see Belle at this point down on the box? Or was that a little bit later?
I think it was a bit later.
Because the whole thing ends up being Reese and Abby.
Yeah.
Playing a bit of a...
Abby is Belle. So Belle does appear.
Yes. But it's Abby dressed as Belle.
Yeah, it's a Scooby-Doo moment.
So there's the thing where the camera is kind of floating around because the stage is pitch black and the camera light is on. You don't know who's moving it around. It's just kind of looks like it's sort of floating around.
And Sherry has had enough.
Yeah.
She's off. But she's not scared.
Fuck this shit. I'm not putting up with this. And then, the voice over the PA. Well done. Great performance. No notes.
Yeah. No notes. I like the notes he gave himself.
Yeah.
Earlier on.
Yeah.
2 ticks.
2
Yes. Marcus thinks the social media chatter about it. Yeah, here we go. About Sherry quitting the haunted play will guarantee a sellout show and an extension to the summer. And he plans to recast her with a proper actress. Anyone in mind?
Sheridan Smith.
Sheridan Smith, of course. And so Abby is not the person in mind for that role, unfortunately, for her.
No, and it turns out he's a nasty piece of work as well.
And he starts getting a bit weird with her.
Yes.
Sort of stroking her.
And then she breaks his neck.
Yeah.
Because I guess she's been possessed. Bloody Belle's back. Ah!
A shriek in her.
So this is when things then take a bit of a weird turn. Because they all come out to do their bows. And it feels like that's the end of that. But Reese isn't there.
It was so weird. I remember seeing them. Reese at the front of the stage, it's like he looks a bit odd.
Yeah.
He looks... Maybe he's just more relaxed. There's something about him that just isn't quite right. And because of the way they did the lighting, you couldn't properly see his face.
No.
And so, they're doing all of this bowing, and, the audience is in raptures taken by the thought that, oh, this is the end. Yeah, okay.
And then Steve starts talking about the fact they lost Reese. And Reese died.
Reese died last year.
And so he decided he still wanted to run the production, and they had the understudy step in. Toby. Yeah. Sometimes he looked at Toby on stage and just saw Reese, and they put up the in memoriam black screen with a black and white photo on it up on the screen with his dates on there. And so now that's the end. That's it. Yeah. And they all go off stage. But we can then hear Steve's still got his mic attached and can't take it off. And they tell him not to go back on stage because the lighting rig's being moved around. He comes back on, and then we see well, we don't see it, do we? Yeah, the curtain comes down, and then a piece of lighting falls on his head, and there's an ambulance siren.
Yeah. And it's a bit like in the understudy when you hear the stuff going on stage. And it's deliberate sabotage.
Yes, it is. Because the curtain comes back up, and Steve's on the stage lying on the floor, and Reese appears all in white with 2 cups of coffee. Just like old times, you lying on the floor pretending to be dead. And now you are dead.
And now this is, we're in the real world of Steve and Reese and their little habit of staging deaths for the other person to come and find.
Yeah. This was brilliant. I really loved this whole bit of them chatting on stage. Toby. No, it's not fucking Toby. So Steve's dead because he summoned Bloody Bell. And Reese fell through the trapdoor in rehearsal and broke his neck. And then there was I can't believe the twist is that you were a ghost all along.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really good.
And then the suggestion that maybe the twist is that actually this is all a dream. Steve's just having a dream, which would have been just as awful. So yeah, now they're going to spend eternity haunting the Wyndham's Theatre.
I love that. Just the whole concept of them figuring out how to haunt the theatre. Yeah,
when he says, Reese says, you can probably haunt it in an afternoon.
Yeah, I've figured out a place in an afternoon. So, yeah, and they talk about why did you, after Reese died, why did you carry on doing the show?
Yeah,
with fucking little Toby.
Because he suggested Steve could be replaced by Jason Manford.
Yeah.
Steve's not happy, but Reese goes, at least he's a name. Who have I got? Fucking little Toby.
Fucking little Toby. Yeah. And then, is this the end then? Is this, so because they're dressed in their white sort of heavenly outfits.
And some clouds come down.
Cloud number 9. Very good.
And we get Tears of Laughter.
With the whole cast.
I like that they dropped some other jokey bits in. And then there was the there was the stuff from Wuthering Heist about, can I say a word? Can I say something? Plethora. That means a lot. And just a series of those.
It's a whole series of those.
I did enjoy the Bloody Bell one with she's just making unintelligible noises. You don't even know what that means. That was a good one.
That's good. Yeah. And this was, I just thought this was such a great tonal shift that still kept the story going, or this series of weird events that we've been witness to, but made it a real sentimental send-off.
That's the thing, isn't it? They did it with the TV show ending, where they ended up just playing versions of themselves with some fictional kind of stuff around it, but it all ended up being very sentimental about their relationship. And they've done the same here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, listening to the words of Tears of Laughter, the final show that they do, like, I was almost hearing the final show as we were watching, and it was like, that is going to be so laden with emotion.
That
like,
is my memory of you.
It's yeah, because it's like, that's the end, and that draws to a close something so big, and such a massive part of their lives for over a decade. And at the end of a run like they're doing in the theatre as well, like it's months. And like, you've been involved in productions and things, like the end, when you've been in that level of intensity in that sort of environment, it's like such a big thing to finish. And it'd be destroyed, I think, if I was doing that.
Oh, completely.
For the final time.
You hear about how people in certain professions, like footballers, who really struggle with not playing in front of adoring crowds anymore when their career finishes, and every Saturday they've got to find something else to do with themselves when they're not being cheered by tens of thousands of people. And there's something similar of just sort of this empty feeling of, well, what am I doing tonight then? Not that. That's done.
Yeah. 6 days a week, 2 days with a matinee.
It's intense.
It's really intense. And they can't be played by an understudy.
No, can you imagine the sheer pressure on them to remain healthy?
I wonder there's like insurance. What insurance is required?
I don't know, but can you imagine turning up and Reese not being in it?
Yeah,
because the whole Toby thing would fall apart because it actually isn't Reese. Great.
Yeah.
The whole show is based on the premise that is Reese Shearsmith and that's Steve Pemberton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happens.
Hopefully we won't need to find out.
I don't care.
Everything's been fine. I don't care. I just don't care.
I've been there. I've seen it. Makes no odds to me. I hope it worked out for everyone else.
Yeah. Hope you've all had a great time. And I hope that person did find her mobile phone in the end.
I checked my pockets repeatedly. It was not in my pocket.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
as though I said that as though I might have accidentally stolen it in like a trance.
The suggestion was made that it had fallen into one of my pockets.
Yeah, what?
I feel like I'm being accused.
That is an accusation. I don't know. Maybe it, fell into one of your pockets.
Yeah. No. Sorry. Yeah, and then that was it.
That was it. That
Lovely
was
way to end, and then we got a nice little curtain call.
Yes.
And just so happy with what they did.
Yeah.
And so impressed. Like I was like, how have you managed to do this and the last series.
It's amazing what they can fit into 2.5 hours on stage. Hang
2
on
hours, 20 minutes.
That's 5 episodes.
Yeah.
It's nearly a series.
I mean, they did just do Bernie Clifton for half an hour, or 20 minutes. So,
and rehashing an old script that they'd.
Yeah, so really, it's
really we're talking an hour.
And
tops.
when you think about it, with all the camera stuff, it was like,
oh, they've already
pretty much done that in Deadline.
Well. Yeah.
They knew, like they'd done that live. So
So actually, it's not that impressive they managed to do this and that last series at all.
No, I take
especially as Plodding On was just getting all their mates together for a party and pretending to argue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing's impressive at all, actually. On second thoughts.
I hate this.
Oh, yeah. So this is the final new reaction thing that we will have.
It is.
Which is sad.
It is.
But, I also thought.
Oh, go on.
I should have said it earlier, but like because the multi-layered, and is it a dream? Is it a ghost? Is it like what's going on? Is this person really this person? Like quite David Lynch. Yeah, which I very much appreciated.
Or Vanilla Sky. Who are these people?
Yeah.
Where are we at right now?
Yeah, at what
Where
point
did the blending
we
happen?
slip over into this other world, or this other perception of consciousness or reality? And I think there's some of that, some of the bleed between.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
And I would love to know if Toby appeared more than we realised.
Which is crazy if he did.
Yeah,
you're so primed for Reed Shearsmith in all these bits, but actually there's someone else there at various points. Guys, you're going to need to release the script and the full script. I want to see the whole script.
I would love to see it again. I don't know whether they will release like a filmed version of it, because I think the live audience element is such an important part of it that I'm not sure how well it would come across.
But I guess they've got form in that they released League of Gentlemen live shows, didn't they?
Yeah.
I know they were a bit different in the brochure thing.
I mean, you could
those
potentially
like
do it
gigs.
Because you think about like Ghost Stories, the Andy Nyman, Jeremy Dyson thing. That was a theatre thing first, and then they created a film version out of it. So I think you could potentially make it work for the screen to add some other elements to make the jump scares and stuff.
The thing is, if you take things like Cats, they released as like a film version, but that's on the stage.
Yeah.
But all of the audience, I think it was filmed in an empty theatre. Hamilton, I don't think had a studio audience there because it was all just filming the stage and what was going on the stage. I don't think you'd be able to do that with this.
No.
I think that because there are those bits where they're doing shots of the audience and they're turning around and showing the audience disappear, you've got Belle up on the balcony and things like that. I think you'd need to have an audience in, and I think you'd need to be seeing them feeding off things. Maybe the Mark Gatiss one last night was the filmed one. Maybe that was why he was dropped in on that date, because that was going to be the one that was released.
Yeah, we will see. We'll see if they do anything. Yeah, so please do get in touch if you've been to see it, and we'd love to hear how you found it and anything that we've forgotten or
probably loads
got completely wrong in your view. Please do drop us an email, quietnightinside09@gmail.com, or get in touch via Blue Sky at AQNIN9. Yeah, and if you fancy dropping us a few quid, as always, we'll put the PayPal Me link in the show notes, so you can just help keep this thing running without any adverts. That would be lovely. Thank you. I mean, I suppose it might be nice to revisit it if we do get feedback from people and talk about some other stuff as like a second episode, as we've done with previous ones, like the immediate reaction and then the script book or whatever. So, and we might get a script at some point.
That would be nice.
That would be nice.
Reese, Steve, if you're listening.
They're not listening.
I hope.
Yeah, I really hope. Cool. All right. Well, we'll get back to whatever we're doing at this stage.
Yeah, we don't know where we're at right now. We're not going to tell you what's being released next week or the week after. Who knows? We'll see.
We'll see. We might be dead. Who knows?
And then we will somehow release our own extended memorial to this show.
Yeah. That'd be magically meta. Beautiful. All right. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.